Yo, what's going on, everybody? It's Tuesday, February 27th. Had a mixed close today. S&P and NASDAQ up. Dow Jones was down. Tomorrow is the Social Security payment. Thursday, I mentioned we're going to get that inflation report, which everybody calls the Fed's favorite inflation indicator, and that's forecast to be at 0.3%, which would be up from the previous month, January. And so monetarist zombies are going to freak out on that. Friday, we got first of the month payments because that is March 1st. So that is a big leading flow day. And then after that, that's it for the flows. They peak for the month of February is the biggest month of the fiscal year in terms of flows because they get the tax refunds. That's where the bulk of the tax refunds get sent out or direct deposited. And so you have a huge month, like a 300 billion deficit month. So 300 billion in transfers. Right now it's about 250 billion, actually running a little bit below last year, but still very strong. But that's it. By March 1st, that's the peak. And then we get into the tax drain period of mid-March and mid-April. But today I thought it would be fun to go over some quotes from the book. It's a book I recommended many times to you guys. Maybe many of you probably have read it. And it's called Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. You can go to Amazon. It's inexpensive. It's a great read. It's a fun read. It's a paperback book. And the book contains so many anecdotes and wisdom, not just about trading, but about life. And it was written by Jesse Livermore, who was a famous stock speculator. He lived from the late 19th century into the mid 20th century. He became very famous on Wall Street, mainly as a bear, as a short seller. But again, the book it's a fun read. When I had my floor brokerage company on the NYMEX, I used to give all my employees that book to read, and it's great. And still to this day, I mean, some of the quotes in there are incredible. So I'm going to read some of these things. If you see me turning my head here, I'm just looking at my computer screen. But the first one I want to, and again, the couple of quotes I'm going to give, I truly recommend that you just go buy the book and you read the book because it's great. But here's one from the book. The game of speculation is the most uniformly fascinating game in the world. But it is not a game for the stupid, the mentally lazy, the person of inferior emotional balance, or the get-rich-quick adventurer. They will die poor. And we all know what he's talking about here. I mean, I talk about it all the time. The stupid, maybe that's a harsh word to use, but it's true. I mean, we talk about the monetarist zombies who continue to do the same thing over and over again, despite the fact that what they are expecting never comes to fruition. As a matter of fact, it's normally just the opposite. To me, that is stupidity. That is ignorance. That is, having some kind of a bias, some kind of a personal bias, which precludes you from looking at anything different. And when the evidence is right out there in front of your face and you ignore it or you deny it, I don't know what better definition of stupidity there is. The next thing he mentioned is the mentally lazy. Like, people don't, I've always talked about mental game and as a big part of this endeavor. And a key element, if not the most important element in success. And just, mental toughness, doing the work, being observant, connecting the dots, looking at a variety of things, People always, the tendency is that people want to simplify everything. They want to put everything into like a cookie cutter, a box formula, where it takes out any kind of decision making and it just becomes some kind of rote, formulaic approach, which, perhaps over a long period of time, like if you look at trading systems which employ moving averages, it's been shown that over a long period of time, a very long period of time, they can produce a modest rate of return over a risk-free rate of return. But we're talking about over a very long period of time where over that course of time, you're going to have many, 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 many small losses. Then you'll have a big gain and you'll give that all back with small losses. I mean, it's a completely, I don't know anyone who would have the ability to follow something like that. But yet people gravitate to that because they think, oh, here's a very easy mechanical system. I don't have to think. Okay, that's what they mean by mentally lazy. Like, you don't have to think. You always have to think. I mean, thinking is one of the most important things you can do in your life. Okay? Thinking leads to action. Action leads to results. Like, if you don't think, you basically reduce yourself to some kind of a, single cell organism. So, and maybe they even think, I don't know. The other thing, the person of an inferior emotional balance. I talk about this all the time, how you have to stay in control of your emotions, folks. This is not life or death. And I try to point this out so often, especially with the monetarist zombies, how we see over and over and over again their highly emotional state, the emotional reaction. A number comes out or a Fed official says something. One day they're buying, the next day they're selling, like zero control over their emotions. And this is not relegated to novice investors. This is Wall Street. This is believe me, I've been on Wall Street, involved in the financial industry for my entire career, over 40 years. I know these people. This is the way they operate. And this is definitely a sign of inferior emotional balance. And finally, in this quote, the get rich quick adventurer. Like, I run into this all the time in the service I provide which is my thing, is a macro service. And I have a lot of people who often say, hey, I really like your research and and the MMT, but, I need something to make money every day. I need something for the short term. Folks, how many times do I have to recount my past, my history as an independent trader on 4 exchanges? You could not, that was the equivalent back in that day of these algorithmic traders today, with their multi-million-dollar infrastructure at the exchanges that front run. I was down there in the pits. That was the shortest short term you could possibly, and I've said many times that a lot of guys never made it. And you were there, right in the action. You could front run. You could see who was doing the orders. You had an advantage. You weren't paying commissions back then, which was a big thing back then because regular brokerage commissions were astronomical. You got to get rid of this get rich quick, compunction. It's just not going to work. All right, so let me go on to the next one, which I think is a very cool one. A stock operator has to fight a lot of expensive enemies within himself. Now, we all know what I'm talking about here. It's this inner, fighting fear, fighting greed, fighting impatience. Okay, I talk about this stuff all the time. that as human beings with emotions, remember the other day I said the difference between economics or trading or investing and a hard science like physics, somebody once said, is that electrons don't have feelings. Okay, and then I said, anyway, maybe they do, because that's quantum mechanics. Like when you actually observe a system or an event, it literally changes that thing. But the point here is that each of us as human beings, we have emotions. And it goes back to the other thing that I talked about keeping emotions under control. Not that I talked about, but was mentioned in that quote from Reminiscences, keep emotions under control. We have to fight these natural tendencies to be afraid or to be overconfident or to lack patience. These are the enemies, what he's talking about, the enemies within ourselves, which end up self-sabotaging what we're trying to do. Now, a lot of people, they don't pay any attention to that. I'm probably one of the only people out there who have made it a point not only to bring to you the economic understanding and the market perspective, but I also talk a lot, and I've been talking a lot over, the years about this mental game. And I've been very open and honest about my own evolution with that and my own struggles with that. I was always kind of a very gifted analyst I'm analytical to begin with it in the way my mind functions. And from the very beginning, I used to read all the books, and I used to sit with the charts every night for hours and hours, and I would have every kind of technical understanding, but it were those enemies within myself which sabotage. I had the right view. I had the right analytical perspective, but I never seemed to be able to make any money because I would sabotage myself, because I was not aware. It wasn't even that I was fighting the enemy. I always say the first thing is awareness. Like, you have to have awareness. You might have some bad behavior, but if you're not even aware that that's bad behavior, how can you take the next step to change that behavior, to eradicate it, to turn it into a positive, reinforcing behavior as opposed to a self-sabotaging behavior? You have to have awareness. And it took me a long time. I always thought it was the system. Right? And I see a lot of people, who come to me, again, these examples to me are very clear because of this service that I provide. And people come to me and they're excited and they want to learn about MMT, and they're hoping to, make money and increase their wealth and stuff like that. And I see very quickly the lack of patience, the mental, what did he say here? The mental weakness, right? The mentally lazy. They don't want to learn this stuff. They think, oh, MMT, that's awesome. I've heard about it. I'm going to understand how, the monetary system functions. And then let's say they get the report or they get the emails and it's like, oh, this is overwhelming. I don't want to do it. I talked about this in a video a couple of days ago. I said, learning is hard. But it's something you have to do if you desire to elevate yourself. It's hard. We all understand that. It took me a very long time, and I try to learn something every single day. Every single day. It's hard, but if you're mentally lazy, if you don't want to do the work, then what do you expect? So people they believe that there's some panacea out there. I call it jokingly, I call it the system fairy. The fairy is going to grant you wealth and riches beyond your dreams, carry you there in a ball of cotton where you will never experience any stress or anxiety or losses, maybe teeny tiny losses once in a while. The system fairy is going to take care of you. You don't have to think about anything. You can go away on vacation and the system fairy automatically, there's an app on your phone or your computer. It's going to do everything for you. That's literally what people, I'm going to trade options and I'm going to make, X dollars every day, and that's going to be my salary. I talked about, again, going back to my floor trading days where guys went down there. There were very, very few guys, very, very few, who basically earned a salary as a floor trader. You had 3 types of people down there. 4, maybe. You had the big hitters. And the big hitters in every situation that I saw in the 4 exchanges and the various different pits that I traded in, the big hitters, they had inside information. And back then, inside information was they were maybe hooked up with some big brokers from some big firms who gave them the edge on big trades every time. So they had a lock. Like Goldman Sachs. When Goldman Sachs puts a deal together, it builds in a profit for itself. Before the deal is even consummated, they price the deal so that it's a lock. That's why I always buy Goldman Sachs stock whenever it dips, because they print money, because they bake that into their deals. And they have big clients and they're able to do big deals. And so it was the same thing. So you had those guys. You had the guys who basically were just, they would churn and burn. I mean, they would come down there. They were the gamblers, and they eventually would blow out. They'd have some big runs. They would eventually blow out. You had the little guys who kind of, went along for a while, but realized that what they were earning down there, it was less than what they could make in a job. And then you had other little guys who basically eked out a nice salary for themselves. And by nice, I would say a couple of $100,000 a year, maybe $200,000-300,000 a year, which was not bad back in those days. I'm talking about the 80s and the 90s. And so, but that was a very, very, very small percentage. We're talking about maybe in a pit with 500 guys in there, you may be talking about a half a dozen who were able to do that. But they had extremely good discipline. They came in every day. They weren't guys who socialized with the crew, with the guys down there. They didn't go out. They came in very disciplined. Boom. They did their thing. They went home. Boom. Okay. So, I saw that all. And it's the same thing at the macro level. Like now, people who invest, if you don't have these qualities, you're gonna be churn them and burn them. If you're not locked in with some kind of insider information or something like that. Let's see what else they got here. Oh, this is a good one. I'll end up with this. The desire, I talk about this a lot. The desire for constant action, irrespective of underlying conditions, is responsible for many losses in Wall Street, even among the professionals who feel that they must take home some money every day as though they were working for wages, right? Just what I talked about. I see this all the time, and I say, this is from my experience with myself over the course of my career, and more importantly, in recent times with dealing with people. My experience has been that the true motivation of people who invest or who want to trade the markets is action. It's not making money. They'll tell you that they're in it to make money, but in reality, they're in it for the action. That's also like a gambler's mentality. They go to Vegas, they go to Atlantic City, wherever. They want the action. It's the action that excites them, okay? And they'll blow through their life savings or whatever. They want that action. They want to talk about that action too. They want to go to parties. They want to go with their friends and their colleagues, and they say, yeah, I'm a trader, and I wake up and I have 15 screens in front of me, and I'm in and out all day long, 1,000 little, they want the action. But he says right here, and this is so true, this is responsible for many losses on Wall Street, even among the professionals. And I saw that. There were days, I could remember days, and I apologize for constantly going back to my floor trading days, but I think it's a good example. I mean, there were days when the pit was quiet. Not much going on. Sometimes I come on here after the close and I do a video and I say, there's not a whole lot to talk about. There's not something to talk about every day. But yet, back in the day when I was a trader, I would go into the pit just to do something. It's quiet, it's dead quiet. Somebody comes in and offers, whatever. I say, okay, I'll buy those for no reason. I had no reason to buy them. Or somebody bids on something, sold. I sold it. I have no reason to sell it, but I did it anyway. Why? Because I was bored. I wanted the action. And I see this all the time. Now, nowadays it's different because we sit in front of screens or whatever. And like I see advertisements online where there's services that'll come to your house or your office and set up like 20 screens, like all over your wall, with everything is on it. You're going to have CNBC, you're going to have the chart, every single chart you could imagine. You could have tick charts, you could have hour charts, you could have... Why? That's action. That's not making money. That's just action. So anyway, I'll end it up there, and this is a great book, Reminiscences of a Stock Operator. I'll put the link on Amazon. I don't make any money from Amazon, so don't think, it's a promotion for Amazon. It's not. I just think it's a really good book. It's fun to read. I mean, it's one of these books, it's a short book. You can read it over and over and over. I'm sure you're going to highlight things. You're going to go back and look. And even if you don't want to buy the book, if you just Google, quotes from Reminiscences from a Stock Operator, you'll see, it's all over the internet. Great stuff. Anyway, see you guys tomorrow. Bye.